Hey guys, it's Tiffany with the next chapter with Tiffany. And I just wanted to jump on here real quick and do a little bit of an intro into this episode that I have with Dr. Becky. I wanted to thank you guys in advance for being here and trusting us and taking the time to listen, watch whatever you're doing, whether it's on your regular podcast platform or if you're actually on YouTube watching this video. Thank you so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, whatever it takes to be able to build this podcast. I am all in. So I really appreciate you guys being here. This content that Dr. Becky and I are actually talking about today is a huge wide range of a lot of things, but the basis of it is talking about the attachment styles that we develop through our lives from childhood forward. And it also leads into talking about the love languages and how those actually are related. I really hope that you get out of this as much as I did because I love talking to her. For one, she gives me an absolute safe platform to be able to be super transparent about myself. And on the flip side, my hope with that transparency and kind of airing some life lessons and the things that I've discovered, my hope is that it helps you. And that's the whole point behind this podcast is being able to enlighten, to have us all learn from each other and maybe help save you from going down the path I did in regards to kind of constantly repeating the same cycles. So I hope that you get something out of this, and I really appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you want to find Dr. Becky, you can find her on YouTube, and she has the YouTube channel Dear Dr. Becky, where she dives into multiple levels of mental health and well being and everything else. So thank you guys again, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, guys. Well, welcome to another episode of The Next Chapter with Tiffany. And as you can see, I am once again with the lovely and talented and oh so deep and intellectual Dr. Becky Woolery.
Well, can I
What an
use that
intro.
all the time? Ooh, that is quite the intro.
Yay. I know. I love it. Well, it's true. I cannot tell you how grateful I am enough that you are taking the time to chat with me. And we've discussed actually doing something once a month
Yeah,
together, which
I'm
I'm
so
so excited about.
excited. So excited.
Yes, absolutely. Me too. And I'm so grateful for that, Dr. Becky. So, that being said, I want to also give the plug for your YouTube channel and tell us a little bit about that, please.
Well, it's just Dear Dr. Becky, and I love the fact that I can help people in this bigger venue, whether it's your podcast, which I think is just amazing, being
Thank you.
with you and having these discussions. Super excited to continue this on a regular basis. So thank you
Me
for
too.
inviting me and asking me.
You
Because
bet.
I think you are incredible and you bring so much of your own person and you're so genuine, and I just find that
Thank
very
you.
very valuable. So thank you for that. And
Thank
and
you.
I do notice that you do a little bit of research. You've got some knowledge and some skills there too, Tiffany. I want
I
to add that.
try. I try because the last thing I want is to come on here with somebody, especially that, a professional such as yourself, that I'm not prepared or not asking the right questions or not responding in ways that are of any value and just sit here and just go, so, and I have dove into our subject matter,
Nice.
quite, I wouldn't say a ton, but enough to answer questions that I had for myself because of patterns I had noticed that I have been repeating over many, many, many years of my life, starting as far back as I can remember, as far as relationships go. And what our subject today is attachment styles. And I wanted to talk about attachment styles with you because we kind of touched on that just a tad on our last podcast, and it was kind of like, okay, let's make sure that we focus on this subject matter all on its own because it deserves that platform, and to, I guess, bring more into why I think it's a valuable conversation is what I've noticed with myself with my attachment style is I go way too fast. I feel like I've got some things that were definitely started way back in my childhood for why I glom on to who I glom on to and how fast I glom on. So, and in the end, you end up going, oh, God, if you just would have taken a little more time, this might have been a little more healthy, or maybe the relationship could have grown more naturally with a little more time and a little more healthy distance. But that's not how I operate. So, and it's like, well, here we go. So that being said, I wanted to just list off the four, and I've heard from talking to other people and reading other things that there's actually more than four. So I want to get your input on all of that as we go. But as far as attachment styles go, what you're going to mostly read about is there are the secure attached, there's the anxious attached, the avoidant, dismissive, it depends on what you read, the avoidant or dismissive attached, and then the disorganized, fearful, avoidant. So there's kind of so many different little wordings and stuff that you can use in there, which I found interesting as I started diving into this maybe not quite 2 years ago myself. But so attachment styles describe how we interact with and how we attach to people that are closest to us. And so obviously it starts at a young age as we form bonds with our caregivers. So I'm going to just let you take the lead on this as far as your thoughts, beliefs, your research, whatever you want to say regarding attachment styles. So hit it.
Oh man, well, I think you're doing a pretty good job about explaining. That was awesome.
Oh,
And
thanks.
and yeah, we gotta love attachment because it really is how we bond, like you said, how we connect. And I just want to add this. And sometimes it's also how we drive our partners crazy just a little bit, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's true. It's oftentimes the way that we respond or react, as the case may be, and it does. I think you said it right. It develops starting from childhood into adulthood,
Yeah.
and so it's pretty powerful to recognize. Sometimes people are like, "Well, why does it matter? If it's attachment because it." As we mentioned, it affects our relationships in the here and the now. And if we want to have healthy relationships, it can really help us to understand ourselves better, our partner better. And then, of
Right.
course, the most important thing to make the changes that we need to have a good relationship, right? That's the purpose.
Yes.
I think most people want to have a good relationship. So I think
Yes.
it's so true.
Absolutely. Good meaning healthy, right? Good, healthy. Good,
Yes,
healthy.
healthy. I love to use that word. Healthy is much better than using the word good. Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And attachment is very interesting because this first started. I'll give you a little history on this.
Yeah.
Attachment really was first identified with children and their primary caregiver. And typically that was clear back in the 50s. And
Mhm.
typically that was with the mother and the child, right? And they did a lot of studies, and I've watched these actual studies because they videotape them. So I watched
Mm.
these studies, and it would be fascinating. They would have a mom be in a room with a child, and then they would see what the response was between the dynamics of the relationship. And we're talking a child, a very young child, like 1 or 2 years of age. And it's pretty fascinating to watch these moms come into the room, interact with their child, and then they would have the mother leave the room and then come back and see how the child responded. And that's where they got all these categories from, is watching the child respond. And they would notice that sometimes that child would just immediately just come to the mom and rush to the mom and just hug the mom, and then the child would be okay to play on its own, right? And so
Right.
they identified, okay, that child has a pretty secure attachments. I can't talk. And another part of that is, maybe the child would kind of cry a little bit when mom left and was not, happy that mom was leaving. And that just showed a secure attachment. And then other children, the mom would leave and the mom would come back, and they wouldn't even want to see the mom. They wouldn't want to be around the mom. They wouldn't want to interact with the mom. And
Yeah.
so they recognized that they were, in a sense, avoiding, right? Avoiding the mother. So again, another category arose, and that is the avoidant attachment. They were physically and emotionally kind of distant from each other, which is
Yeah.
pretty interesting. And now, And then the other one that they notice is, of course, the child coming into the room, and the child could never be calmed down, whether the mom was there or the mom was gone. The child was just always, fussy and crying and just really kind of edgy and anxious, and just was a hard time. And even when the mother came back into the room, the
Yeah.
child still stayed fussy and not calm, and very needy. So it's really interesting to go and watch these videos by Mary Ainsworth is her name, and just fascinating to actually see how they came up with these categories. Now, I have to say, since then, and they've transferred that from child to adulthood, right? Because they recognize that those attachments that were developed at that young age for different reasons would continue into adulthood. But they've also done more studies, right? There's a couple that came on the scene. They really started studying attachment in adulthood. And they came up with, like you said, there are more styles, but probably the most common one is the additional one that was added was the anxious avoidant, or
Mm.
as a children they called it disorganized, and then as the adults they called it the anxious avoidant, which is kind of interesting because it's like the combination of the two attachment styles. So it's
Right.
pretty interesting. I have a way of just doing a really quick description of them, if that's okay.
Yeah, do it.
I think it's human nature, right? And sometimes I think we just have to laugh at ourselves because we're all human, and
Yeah.
we have different things we do. But the secure attachment, right? That's kind of the ideal attachment. We all want to have a secure attachment. So the way I look at it is the calm and cool connector, right? We just have that calm and cool, and we're very balanced, and we feel safe in our relationship. And
Mm.
that's kind of nice. You can feel like there's chaos around you and still feel safe and calm and cool. And I don't know how many people can actually visualize that, because of the fact that the research shows there's literally only about 50% of the people that report a secure attachment. And in a relationship, sometimes that could be just one of the two, which is interesting. Doesn't mean they
Yeah.
both have to. So it might only be half of that relationship. So that's like 25% of the people in a relationship report secure attachment. So that's not a lot of
Mm.
people when you think about it.
It's not. And
Mhm.
quick little thought, the person that's saying, "Oh yeah, 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 we're great," is probably the avoidant. Because they're like, this is normal, right? I just bounce around and I just kind of avoid her, and the more I avoid her, the less I have to deal with. So this is great, you know? It's
That's
like,
right.
no, 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 no. That's not secure. Yeah. So the percentage of
Yes.
actual secure attached couples together, I mean, what do you think that could possibly even be for real? It's got
Right.
to be low. It's got to
Very
be
low.
low.
If you're talking
Yeah.
25% one person feels securely attached, then having both of them together, yeah, I can't even, I don't know, but I'm like gonna half it. I'm gonna half it.
Exactly. Yeah, because it does. It makes me think, huh, I've seen, and we've all seen those couples that you've been around and you think, okay, those guys should not be together. And then you have those that you look at them and they go, I want that. Look at that. He's so kind. She's so loving. They're so, and you never really knew the terminology of if that could possibly be a secure attached couple. Never thought that never knew anything about those terms. And so looking back over the years though and seeing those people, the envy was there always. But I do believe though that that's definitely a low number for sure.
It is, and you start recognizing when you start thinking about how they partner up. If what you just mentioned was the avoidant attachment, right? Oh, hey, I'm good. I don't need anything. I call that like the independent lone wolf, right? And
Yeah,
that's like, I'm fine on my own. But yet, individuals like that typically really crave emotional connection, but they typically avoid it. So it's very interesting. I think part of that is because they are scared of it,
mm,
or they don't trust it. Right? There's a lot of dynamics there, and we can talk about that more. But then think
definitely.
about somebody who has an avoidant
Excuse me.
attachment style with another partner that has an avoidant attachment style. So that's another thing to think about. So they're kind of both, being that independent. And, sometimes that might work out well. It's almost more difficult when you have opposite attachment styles together, right? So an
Yeah,
avoidant and avoidant could be work well together, but secretly they typically both want more of an emotional connection, and they're probably not going to get it because they're both in
right.
that avoidant mindset, which is really interesting, huh?
It really is. It really is. And it's sad when you think about it because who wouldn't want a loving,
Mm,
really cohesive relationship? If you're in one, it it boggles the mind, especially my mind, because my brain goes to all these deep, deep, deep things.
I know you're
It
just a deep
boggles.
thinker.
I am, and
You
by God,
are.
I don't feel bad for it.
Don't
There
feel
you
bad
go.
for it.
I'm not gonna feel bad for it because
Don't.
I am. Yes, I'm so glad because I love learning and I love exploring, and it just makes me sad, and I'm speaking from experience, when you have somebody that could have a really great relationship. And I say as great as a relationship can be, as good as one can be. And you've got the willing partner here, and then you have the avoidant here that is always kind of putting up walls every turn, and not knowing they're doing it. Obviously, we don't realize that we're doing it. It's just because it's the learned behavior and the things that we've
Sure.
adapted to over our lifetime. So I get that, but it doesn't matter. No matter the amount of conversation, of begging, of therapy, of interventions, of packing up and leaving and coming back and packing up and leaving and coming back, whatever might happen in that meantime, it's a shame that avoidant, or whatever the technical term you want to use, doesn't get it, that what, you could have all this, but it's so ingrained, and so they're so used to just running, throwing up walls, being unavailable emotionally, completely not vulnerable at all. And it's like, to go through life missing out on what could be as healthy of a relationship as you could ever have, it makes me sad. It really does. It makes me sad. And I'm speaking from experience. So,
Mhm. Well,
yeah,
that is sad.
it is sad. It is sad. But we
And
see it all around us. It's not just my personal experience. We
oh,
see it all
no.
around us. And it's a shame because how much time do we have on this earth to actually be, we're born and then we go boom. It's like we've got this much time as adults to where all of a sudden you're like declining. Things
Yeah.
start to go wrong, health issues, whatever. And you had this opportunity for this many years to have had healthy, happy, good, hopefully good relationships. And let's just waste time circling the toilet and running around going, no, no, you're too nice. No, I can't be vulnerable. No, don't question me. This is me. And I'm not, it's you that has the problem. It's all these things you go, wow, you've wasted so much time. It's wasted. Anyway,
Well,
sorry.
because I think sometimes we feel that waste of time because we know the potential for it to be better, right? And that's what we're thinking. It could be this wonderful relationship, and so then it feels like a waste of time, even though we can still develop ourselves within those relationships, and we can still make decisions that can, frankly, we can influence other people also, and
Right.
but you're right. It comes down to people having basically having the insight, having the awareness, and then the key is the desire to change and then putting in the effort. Because
Absolutely.
I've seen people who have a desire, but they don't put in the effort. And it
Right.
really takes putting in effort to make those changes.
Absolutely.
And I think there's some real key factors when you look at different attachment styles that are really, really important that people don't often recognize, and really we don't really talk about them much. But I do want to mention the last one we really haven't well, the other two. We've talked about the avoidant and the secure attachment, but the anxious attachment too is really a difficult style. And we talk about it, and everybody can envision anxious attachment. I mean, we all know somebody who has an anxious attack. I I cannot talk today, I'll tell you.
That's okay. I
So,
got you.
here's the visual. Here's the visual. Your spouse, your partner leaves and goes to work. You haven't talked to them for about 5 minutes, right? And so you're like, oh, I wonder if they made it. I wonder if they're stuck in traffic. I wonder if
If
they're
they got in
thinking
a
about
wreck, if
me.
they
I wonder
died, if they're at the hospital.
exactly. So I'm going to text them. Oh, I haven't heard back from them. Maybe something's really wrong. Maybe they forgot about me already. And so I text them again, right? And then this pattern goes on and on and on. And then pretty soon it's like, they don't love me. They don't want to be around me. They don't even care. They're not even checking their phone. So I'm not even important to them. Oh, so scary and so sad when you look at
Yeah,
that. So sad because this brain spirals out of control with this need for constant affirmation and validation and just constant insecurities, right, about this relationship, and that's really unfortunate. And so I just want to mention that because I think we've all known people that are in that
absolutely.
category, maybe
I have a tinge
ourselves.
of it. Yeah,
I
I
was
have a
gonna say
tinge
maybe.
of it. I
Okay.
do. But I know at the same time that I have some avoidant in there as well. So it's self preservation, definitely,
Okay. Yeah,
for
right.
me.
Because that avoidance sometimes happens when I don't trust the relationship, right? I don't know if I lean into it, if I'm going to get what I need from it. And that
Yeah,
is why that brings us to the last identified one. And as you said, there's more, but these are the primary ones, which can be called disorganized for children, but as the adults, they basically call it avoidant anxious, which is both. So you've got the nervous overthinker, which is the anxious attachment one, and the independent lone wolf, and they're battling it out with each other. So I think I like to refer to it as like the torn tornado because we're like, which way
mm,
do I go? I want to be
yeah,
this and I need this and I'm not getting this. So I'm just going to back off, right? I'm just going to
yep,
back off. And so, and sometimes that involves running away when things get too real.
right, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that happens
crazy.
often.
So that being said, and I
Yeah.
love all that you said. Um, can you explain what the attachment styles really are? If you take a child, like those studies, and I have read those. It's funny you mentioned those studies because I definitely read those about a year ago. And when you take a child, let me just talk about myself for a second.
Go for it.
I am. I'm just
I
going to come
love
right
that
out
you
and
can
say it.
be transparent, Tiffany.
I
Go for
am.
it.
That's me. I am. So let me ask Dr. Becky about. I was obviously, I'm the youngest of four, and there has been some generational trauma that came through, and two lost babies
Mm.
after the two oldest, and then the rainbow baby that was born that wasn't me, that was right before me, and all the world was right, everything was aligned, everything was perfect, and the angels sang, and he was born. And then all of a sudden, 8 months later, yeah, 8 months later, ma'am, you're pregnant again. And that wasn't supposed to happen because there was preventatives taken and I was not supposed to be here. So,
And voila, a miracle happened.
yeah, exactly, right? The good Lord had a plan
That's
for these
right.
folks, right?
Voila. You were
So
supposed
here
to
I
be
came.
here.
I am. Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Uh, but the funny thing is, looking back now that I'm so reflective in what's, in my life, why this, why that, why this, and this is what I'm doing, is massive reflection over the last 2 to 3 years. I i recognize that there was always a pattern to things with the caregiving that went on for me, the way that things went in the house, the golden child syndrome with the one above me, the two oldest gone when I was still pretty young, uh, lots of different things where I felt like I was alone a lot. My dad was always gone. Mom had some um, not so nurturing type of a relationship with me, probably because she was tired by the time I came along, and it was like, I need a job, I mean, whatever. So I always felt like that I had overcompensated, and and really, it's hard to describe. I just felt like I went full on independent, but I don't know if that's what you'd call it. Maybe it's avoidant. But adapting was kind of something I just naturally always did. I just adapted. I would take off and walk down the road at 3 years old and just disappear and go visit people. I was seeking out something. I had a major crush at a very, very, very young age at the neighbor, on the neighbor, I don't know, crush on the neighbor,
Mhm.
much, much older man. Then I started seeing some patterns of attaching to people, men mostly, that were way older than me, and having these weird crushes and being completely boy crazy, like really boy crazy. And I never understood that. I never really questioned it, but I never understood it till later in life. I started to kind of figure out, like, ask myself questions when I would have relationship issues, failed marriages, patterns repeating, always doing certain things that I thought, where the hell does that come from? And I'm very grateful for reflecting now, but I'm still not sure at why these kind of things happen and why I was attaching to older men. It happened in high school. Everybody knows, if you know me, you know that I wasn't having successful relationships in high school. That I was always cheated on. I was always overlooked. I was always the friend zone kind of a thing. So I sought affection elsewhere. That wasn't healthy. Absolutely not. So these patterns I've repeated and these things I've compensated and all these, I've always thought, what is that? So in your infinite knowledge and wisdom, my friend, what the hell is wrong with me? Is there enough time? Oh, this free therapy session here, woman.
You're
No,
you're
I think it's all related, to my attachment style.
Oh, yeah. Well, gosh, Tiffany, first of all, I want to say thanks for sharing. I know that that takes a lot of being vulnerable and trusting when you share like that. And of course, you're very genuine and transparent. And yeah, I think more people need to be that way because
Yeah.
sometimes they think it's only them, right, that goes through these types of things. But it was interesting just to hear what you had to say. I have known you, but I don't live in your head and I don't live your life. So, but as I listened to you just now, I definitely heard you talk about being in relationships where people weren't available, right, to you. They weren't in some way or the other. They were not available.
Absolutely.
So you had that desire to have a relationship, but you tend to lean or move towards people that really weren't available for you. So therefore, they couldn't meet those needs that you had emotionally because they weren't available for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
and also talking about that younger childhood, right? Again, not being there for you emotionally. So definitely classic avoidant, right? Attachment for sure. And so with that, the question is now, what do I do with it? Because right? You're aware, you've gained insight, and now you're like, what do I do? So I think it's one thing to step back and say, okay, understand why I'm the way that I am. I mean, that's very empowering because we just talked about how if all of the population has one or the other attachment style, we're not alone.
Right. Yeah.
We're not
Boy, howdy.
alone. And it normalizes things for us, which I think is very, very important. And recognizing that I think you're spot on with what you just said, that you tried to overcompensate by being ultra dependent, right? Independent, sorry. Ultra independent. There are people that do the dependent thing. Ultra
Right.
independent, because you grew up with unmet emotional needs. And
Yeah.
and probably there may have been some of that little anxious attachment going on there too, because maybe you chose people that had more of an authority figure, I'm going to say,
Mm.
and that dynamic can be kind of tricky because you're looking for something again that's not really available to you, but it may provide reassurance for you at that
Yeah.
time, right? The need for
Right.
independence and reassurance. And sometimes that reassurance is like, wow, these people can give me attention. These people like me. These people think I'm something, right? And it might be somewhat superficial, and it's not always. There are people that can definitely love, and the fact of the matter is that they may not love in the way that we need it, though, right? And we can
Exactly.
talk about that too, because
Yeah.
that's always another topic. People can love each other, but not love each other in the way that we need loved. And that's
Absolutely. Yes, and that is interesting, and I need to write this down because I don't wanna forget that. Hold, please, because you just touched on something that I'm like,
Mm,
"Yes." I've noticed I do know this about myself, and most people that know me know that I'm a daddy's girl. I'm a complete and
mm.
utter daddy's girl. However, here we go. I adore my father, and I know he is absolutely 100% unconditional love to the people in his hemisphere. He's just a love, and that's what most people always say about my dad. Biggest hugs you'll ever get. He doesn't let go. He's just super genuine, super loving, super kind, super vulnerable to a fault. Has no boundaries, any of that. But I was always the person that stood up for him
Mm,
when my little mom, even still to this day, she's pretty hard on him. And his dad was hard on him. She was hard on him. The one son, super hard on him. Uh, and I was the first one to stand up and go, "Ooh, don't talk to him that way. Don't treat him that way. You know, just fight for him, fight for him." And this is my nature. This is what I do. And I think that also started back when I was younger because of seeing things I didn't like. When it comes to somebody that doesn't fight for themselves, is a huge problem for me, but I expect you to fight for me too and
mm,
us as a couple. And if that's a need, girl, that's a need that has probably never been met in
mm,
my life. To have that trust. Trust is a huge thing for me. And trust is a multi-layered thing, as you know, because trust, people instantly go, "Oh, I don't think he'll cheat on me," or "He cheat." No, it's not about that for me. It's not about that for me. Because my thoughts are, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. Whatever. It is what it is. My thing with trust is that, can I rely on you? When you tell me something, is it going to happen? I don't need this, I need, I need action. I am all about, when I say I'm going to do something, it's already done. Consider it done. That's just my personality. And you don't always, yeah. And that's my love language. I know for sure. So that's the other thing I wanted to kind of caveat into love language. When you need something from somebody, you, more times than not, and this is a question, do you see that person giving all of those things that are their love language they would love to get back? Because that would be a relationship that would be more fluid, because I'm super vulnerable, super transparent. I want to talk about everything. I want you to fight for me because I fight for you. I want to know about your childhood. I want to know about what hurts you, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, because I'm going to make sure that none of that happens to make you sad, and I want to make you happy. This is me. But then it's like, okay, I never get that back. But yet I glom on quickly, and I mean fast, to people, to men. And then you look up going, I did it again. So, what are your thoughts about how love languages play into our attachment style?
Yeah, I think when you, especially when you talk about how they play into our attachment style, that's really significant because when you think about it, if your attachment style, if you're really needing that emotional connection and you crave that and you desire that, most likely your love language is going to be something like words of affirmation, right? That's going to be very important. And if what you get is the opposite, somebody who is trying to avoid you and stay away from you, then that's not going to be very reaffirming. Or anxious attachment, especially, is probably even a better example. That overthinker, right? It just needs constant reassurance, constant affirmations. And what what they get instead is, hey, I'm going to mop your floor, right? Because maybe the other person's love language is something like service.
Right.
And that, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the five love languages by Gary
We can touch
Chapman.
on that too. Absolutely.
Okay.
I read the book. So yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I do love the love languages. And so when I'm talking about love languages, I'm really kind of referring back to Gary Chapman's book on the five love languages. And that's a couple of them. So yeah, that can be really tough because a person can love, but they might be like, hey, I'm gonna hand you a mop. That's how I love you. The other
Yeah. Yeah.
person's like, no, I need intimacy. I need hugs. I need my hand held. I need kissed.
Absolutely.
I need
And it
whatever,
doesn't
right?
mean right, and that doesn't mean that it leads right to sex because with a woman, it's like, I want you to physically love on me all day long,
Right,
and
right, right.
then that if that ends the day jumping into bed, beautiful, but by God, there's that buildup and that affection and all that I think is so important that so many and I'll say this that men miss out and they just don't understand it because you can have a man whose love language is physical touch and a woman whose love language is acts of service and words of affirmation and you're like "Phoop," you know
Yeah, yeah.
wait now and then resentment builds and when the resentment builds a woman shuts down the physical touch
Mhm.
and then she's like, well, you're not meeting my needs. And he's like, well, you're not meeting mine. Oh, okay. You know, how the
We
hell do we even end up together?
I know. I I was literally thinking that relationships are like an oxymoron, really, when you think about it. And because the research shows that women feel most loved when they have that intimate, that emotional connection, right? And then when they feel that, then they're more likely to want to open up and be sexual, right? Now men are on the opposite side where they feel most loved when they're having sex, and so that creates quite a quandary. When they're
Yes,
like,
that's
wait a
the
second, you're not giving me sex, so therefore I don't feel love, so therefore I'm not going to provide emotional support, right? And so this is a quandary. It
yes.
really does. People get caught in those patterns, as I call them negative feedback loops, frankly.
Good.
To me, that's the best way to describe it because I'm not responding in the way that you need. So hence, therefore, it just keeps occurring. They don't respond in the way we need. And it just keeps this negative feedback going in this relationship. And so, yeah, and you're
Yeah.
spot on with that. That's exactly what happens all the time. So I think it's important to recognize that either of us can break that negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
And we need to stop waiting for each other in a healthy relationship. We don't always have to wait to get our needs met. So that's a big deal. Now, I know that's not always easy. It doesn't mean that one person should just give and give and give and give, right? And then not expect anything at
Right.
all, because that's not right. But what happens is we just get in we're locking horns. And so we get in a standstill. And if we can just, I just say sometimes we just have to swallow our pride. It's called swallowing our pride. We have to make the effort. And then when we make the effort, they're more likely to make effort too. And
Right.
that's not easy because that is literally swallowing our pride. It's humbling ourselves. It's making the effort. Even then
It's
when we haven't,
becoming vulnerable,
it is
which is not
becoming,
easy for
because
most
we don't
people.
know if we're going to get what we need back when we become vulnerable, right? So it's taking down that shield that we have
Yeah.
and opening ourselves up to exposure. And but the only way we're ever truly going to get what we want is by doing that. And so it is a risk. It is a risk. It's taking a risk.
Yeah.
And so if you're that avoidant attachment person, it is taking a risk. Now,
Yeah.
I do have to add something. I just think that we could talk about that a lot more, but I have to add this is to me really important, because after working with the five love languages with a lot of people and finding it very powerful, because many people just didn't recognize. Um, One thing I discovered along the pathway is they didn't recognize how their spouse loved them. Um, can I give you an example? And
Please
I thought
do.
this is powerful. So I was working with this client early on in this. She was telling me just about how her husband, he didn't communicate with her. He didn't. He didn't give her affection. He didn't take time for her. So you can see that time was a love language for her, that
Yeah.
affection, intimacy was a love language for her. And by the way, I always separate affection, intimacy, and sex, because they are different
Yes,
things.
absolutely.
Just to make it less confusion. I'm not, if I'm talking about sex, I'm going to say sex. If I'm talking about
Okay.
intimacy,
No, I
because
love it.
you can have intimate conversations without even having affection, right?
Absolutely.
Necessarily. So affection is a lot more physical touch. So that's how I separate it,
I love it.
just so we're speaking the same language.
Yes. We're speaking the same love
Communication.
language.
And communication is important in relationships,
Yeah,
Tiffany. So
it
you and I
is.
need to know the terms that we're talking about,
Exactly. I'm with you. I love this. Yes. Yes.
right? So I'm working with this couple, and it was just pretty fascinating. She's telling me all these things, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know about this guy. He's not available for her. He doesn't give her any kind of affirmations. He doesn't communicate with her that much. He doesn't take time, all of these things. And he's, not intimate, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm like, hey, let's do some couple counseling. Why don't you bring him into a session? Let me get to know him first, and then we can go from there. Because I kept thinking I was missing something. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm missing something. So I brought him in. It only took one session before I went, aha, I see what the problem is, right? Well, this man was amazing, right? So I'm seeing it from one side thinking this man's got some issues, but he was amazing. What was incredible about him, and this was years ago, but I might change a little bit of information just to not make it. I'll
Sure.
just say it simple. I'll say simple terms. How's that? He was a businessman, right? So he was a type of a very professional businessman. Well, his wife, he worked very hard so that she could stay home with the children. That's what she wanted to do. So he made sure that she could stay home with the children. So he worked very hard. Well, his wife always wanted braces. And so he took a second job as a professional businessman driving a pizza delivery where he could do it after hours so that he could get his wife some braces. Do you not think that man loved that woman like crazy?
Of
Like
course.
crazy. But did
Wow.
he have time? No. No. Did he have time? No. Did
Oh my gosh.
Right? Do you see she's feeling alone because he's never around, because he's not, but he is over there doing the ultimate acts of love from his standpoint,
Yeah.
which was service. He was serving her and his family like to the full extent. So he was giving her all the love in the world, but she wasn't seeing it because she felt isolated and alone and wasn't getting affirmations and time with him. So
Wow.
that's a big lesson learned. So even for me, because from that point on, I said, yeah, get to know your spouse's love language so that way you can help them feel more loved. But I always now say, but recognize how your spouse loves you. And then if you don't always get your needs met, you can say, it's okay. I know my spouse loves me incredibly because they do all these other things for me,
Right.
right?
Right.
And because we're more likely to give love in the way that we feel loved, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
that was his love language, right? So if she served
Wow.
him, so isn't that just a great story though, and a perfect example
Yes.
of a disconnect because I'm too
Yeah.
focused on my own needs without even recognizing how I'm getting loved and how much
Yeah.
the person loves me.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I think if we were all open and honest and transparent, right? There's those words that a lot of people are, it's like, no, no, sorry.
Like
I
this.
think, yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not going to open myself up and be vulnerable. I don't want that. If we could, like you said, put the walls down a little bit, look over the other side, start to communicate more, open up a little more, you know, allow yourself to be vulnerable and just let it be. It's like we run around in circles, running, avoiding, distressing, and it just blows my mind at what we miss out on, the beauty we miss out on in a relationship, a could be healthy relationship, or as healthy as it could possibly be. There's no perfection,
Mhm.
obviously, but as close as to your perfection as it could be, the fact that we run from those and avoid what it would take to be that low percentage of secure attached. It's sad. It makes me sad. And I'm one of those people to a degree because of the way I operate, the things I do, the things I uh, bring, the things I might avoid, how anxious I get, how quick I attach, how I overlook certain things that lead to more angst in myself, which just perpetuates the whole issues that I already have. It's like, okay, if people were willing to learn, to get help, to become vulnerable, and to allow themselves to really enjoy the life they have, the time, there was that T word again, time
Right.
that we have with these people we say we love and we do care about, let's make it the best we can, you know? And it's sad that these things become ingrained in us, such as our attachment style. A love language is something that in my mind is easy to work with. That's easy. Let's talk about it. Let's see what it is. And then, like you said, the more that we get in the other person's shoes and realize, oh, okay, this is what he is likes, this is what he loves, this is what he needs, this is what I can do, morph it to fit that, but then figure out, okay, the attachment style thing's a little bit hairier,
Mhm.
right? Because a lot of people aren't going to agree if they did get some sort of help and then somebody did say it's such as you, well, you seem to have this avoidant or this uh, disorganized, fearful, whatever. Fear is a huge thing, huge. It drives us in everything we do. I mean, I'm sure that most people wouldn't want to claim to be fearful, but I live with fear every single day about a lot of things, even though I appear to be fearless in the way I do certain things in my life, like doing this. I have
Mhm.
zero fear of talking to somebody, putting it out there in public. I have zero fear of meeting new people. I have zero fear of trying new things. I have zero fear of, I mean, killing an animal, whatever it is. I have zero
Right?
fear, right? However, I fear that the decisions I've made in my life have done me no good in a lot of ways to where I'm at today in the situation I'm at my age. There's a lot of fear with that. But I'm tackling it to try to learn and try to just go, you know what? It is what it is. Go from here. It's all you can do. But fear for other people could be the fear of love, the fear
Mhm.
the heaviness of what a relationship can be. But what about the good? Okay, yeah, let's fear all the unknown, but then let's look at what things could be. Let's look at how things might be and what you're missing out on possibly and what you could have. So what are your thoughts on how fear, obviously with all this stuff we're talking about, fear drives us to run in the other direction, therefore keeping us from having healthy relationships.
Oh yeah, I your words were just great. The fear and the drive just now. You just said that fear and drive.
Thank you.
And I also love how you said that you can recognize that you can be fearless in some ways, right? But fearful in other ways. That's really important to recognize that that is true. So sometimes that can set a facade, right? That we can say, "Oh, I'm fearless. I'm not afraid of anything. I can take on the world." And so then we have this sense of security about ourselves, but we can still be fearful and have low trust of other people.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and that is important to recognize because there's a lot of things that we can feel strong in, and there's a lot of things that we can trust in, and there's a lot of things we might not trust in. So, right, it's like this spectrum. Fear is somewhere on the scale of 1 to 10, how much, but then it also moves to relationships, right? Can be a difference between an intimate relationship to a family relationship to a friend relationship. And so it's going to vary depending on your relationships. But I think that when we talk about attachments, and you said at the beginning, is they run deep. Um, those styles tend to develop starting at our childhood, like we talked about. But then there's many things that happen as we grow and we start getting involved in relationships that can also change those attachment styles. I want to make sure and say that
Oh,
because
yeah.
attachment can change. I might have been more of a I'm going to say maybe an anxious or avoidant attachment style when I was younger, going through a lot of things myself. But as I personally developed a lot more trust in myself, and I also felt greater confidence, greater self worth. That helped me to move into a more secure attachment, right? Just focusing on myself helped me to have a better attachment with people, with relationships. And I've seen that all the way
Yeah.
around me personally with my friends, with relationships with my husband. Um, because I'll be a little transparent. So it was pretty rough in the first of our marriage and our relationship. It was pretty tough, and
Yeah.
we had to really work on our relationship. Relationships are not easy, and I honestly didn't know if our relationship was going to survive. My husband
Yeah.
might not like me telling everybody that,
Well,
but he's aware. He knows
yeah.
that because there was a point where like I'm kind of done with this relationship. I'm not okay with this relationship. And then
Right.
my husband really stepped up to the plate. And that was really key is that he really stepped up to the plate. I had to step up to the plate. We both had to. And we both had to look at what we're doing and what we needed to change. And I'm so grateful that we both did that because we do
Yeah.
have an amazing relationship right now. It's not perfect, as you said, none are.
Right. No
But
such thing.
no, no, because we're still humans going through a
Y-
human
y-
experience for
Two
sure.
separate humans.
Yeah. Yes. But my whole point in just sharing that is that our attachment styles can change and it can be because of what we personally do. And so when
Right.
we recognize certain things in ourselves that create those avoidant or anxious attachment styles that create problems in relationships, we can say, okay, I recognize that, I have a hard time trusting other people. So I really need to evaluate this and I need to do something about it. Or I think I'm just so independent and self reliant. I don't need other people, which frankly is a different way of saying I don't trust other people.
Wow.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
Boy,
just a
howdy.
different way of saying it. And
Yeah.
then, and then sometimes it's like, I just don't trust myself. So how can I trust being in a relationship?
Mm.
And that so there's low trust and low self-worth, right? And that's where the deep fear really comes in. So we're talking about, if you look at it, it kind of goes from a scale to low trust, high trust, low self-worth, high self-worth, low dependency, because anxious attachment styles is you're really dependent on somebody else always
Mm.
filling your need, right? So there's a huge dependency to the opposite, which is independency. And those extremes are not good. So we have to find this middle ground where we have where we can trust ourselves and trust others. Doesn't mean we trust 100% because
Right.
because we know that people aren't all trustworthy and we can break people's trust. And that's a whole nother
Yeah.
issue. But anyway, but it's a
Yeah.
whole book in itself.
It is.
But
Absolutely.
needless to say, I think we'd all agree that trust is important in a relationship. That we also need
Definitely.
to be self reliant in a relationship, but we can also be dependent and independent in a relationship, right? Because
Hmm.
we want to be able to come together and have a healthy attachment, but we also want to be able to say, I can be independent and do my own thing. And, I know my spouse is there, my partner is there, and I can come back to him or her, and that's
Right.
healthy, right? I can go and I can come back and I'm good with this relationship. So we it starts with us, right?
Yeah.
Recognizing if we do have low self-worth, like recognizing if we do have insecurities, recognizing if we are operating frankly on fear, and
Yeah.
then we can start to change it. And of course, to me, at one end is like high anxiety, and low anxiety. And
Mhm.
at the one end on the avoidance scale, same thing, like high avoidance and low avoidance. And then if you kind of look at where am I at? Am I high or am I low? Am I high
Mm.
anxiety or low anxiety? We really want to be low avoidance and low anxiety. That's where we want to be. That's that secure attachment. And that also shows that we're trusting
Yeah,
and that we have self-worth and we do feel worthy of that relationship. And that's also a key component too. So
absolutely.
anyway, those are just a few thoughts based on what you said. There was a lot of things that you said, and we can go a lot of different ways with that.
There's that transparency that's gonna get me in trouble one of these days, but I don't care. Yeah, this is my life. This is my truth. This is my story.
That's
Anyway, there's
right.
my disclaimer. Well, it's I love what you just said because I wrote down the words life experience and changes because you were talking about how we start out in the world of developing how we navigate through relationships where mine was like super anxious, high anxiety,
Mhm.
trust issues, uh constantly getting cheated on and all that, questioning, "Oh my god, what did I do?" And it's probably because I was, like, hanging on for dear life and who knows, but that's kinda what my assessment is when I look back, and nobody wants that. And then my choices in men were ridiculous. I mean, wow, like, off the chart ridiculous. So, the
So anxious,
smartest.
you're describing anxious avoidant, right? That hanging on for dear life. I need you. 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 And they're like, I need to breathe. And
"Back
then
off,
like,
woman." Yeah.
and then I'm choosing somebody who's, avoidance, right? Not emotionally available to me because of the choices that I'm making. So sorry, go
Yes.
ahead. But
No,
I just was
no,
seeing
thank
that
you. You can
perfect example of that avoidant.
yes, and you can interject anytime because I want you to. So, it's funny when you were talking that my mind was going back and going, "Oh, yeah,
Mm,
uh-huh. Oh,
I
oh,
can
yeah,
relate,
uh-oh."
right?
Yeah, totally. Because I
I
could
can
see
relate.
the way things change you in your attachment styles
Mm,
or love language is due to experiences. So, my first several relationships were just not good. They were not good. And I was not aware of what was going wrong. I was internalizing going, what is wrong with me?
me.
What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Because when you get cheated on all the time and there's always these other factors playing into it, like there was always somebody else in the picture where it was the ex or it
Yeah.
was the one on the side and it was like, what is happening? Me, 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 me. And I'm thinking,
You start
wait,
feeling like you're the common denominator, right? So somehow
absolutely.
it must be me. I want you to continue, but I want to
Yeah.
interject something really quick. I think
Yes.
there's also another key component besides attachment styles, and that is like personality types. So we talk about passive, aggressive, assertive, and I think those personality that we're really it's genetic. We're born that way. I think those play massively into our attachment styles, and especially if you go back to the research that was done as children and very young children, that was part of their personalities. I think that plays into their style a lot.
Mm,
So yeah, personality style is very genetic. So anyway, go ahead.
interesting.
So
Yeah,
you were
it's
very,
interesting.
you were very much, I would say, a pleaser. Um,
Oh, yeah,
yeah, you were a pleaser,
absolutely.
and that plays
Yes.
a lot into this, right? Mhm.
Yep, still am. And that's just I won't stop being that person, but it has not served me well in my relationships because that's my love language is what can I do to make your life easier? What can I do? I'll fix this. I'll fight for you. I'll fix that. I can do this. Blah 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 blah. Blah. So that's my love language too. But I'm give, and somebody else could look at it like, I could see how the wrong person is going to see that as what the hell are you doing? But I'm like, this is me, man. And I've always been this part of me has never changed from childhood. Super outgoing,
Mhm.
super there's no stranger. I mean, it's just my personality. And I think that has been the one thing that has been attracting other people, other men, other guys, whatever, is that. outward and that friendliness and that I can talk
Mhm.
to anybody, I can, adapt to anything. But then after the fact, it's like, well, you're too friendly with everybody. Well,
Mhm.
every guy you talk to wants to sleep with you, and you're going, what?
No, they have insecure attachment.
Yeah, and I've heard that 1,000 times. I'm like, "Wait, I'm just being friendly. What they have in their brain is not my problem,
Yeah.
okay? I can't help it if somebody thinks something because I'm friendly. I'm friendly all the time. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if you're broke or you're rich or you're short, tall, fat, skinny, color. I don't care. I'm gonna be friendly because that's my nature." So, that's always been interesting. But back to what I was saying about the multiple experiences that I've had, each one has helped morph me into probably changing up my attachment style to a
Okay.
degree of self preservation and then becoming more avoidant, I think, as I've gotten older, because of self preservation. It's like I've in a situation again where my needs aren't getting met. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to reel it in. Okay, I'm done doing all the stuff I do because I'm kind of tired of it and tired of not getting my needs met. And so then I start to build that wall, and those things just start to change. And again, life experience leads to change and adapting. So that was my input on what you were saying about how your attachment style has changed over time.
Mhm.
Mine, I believe, has as well, but I'm still not, I have not yet ever experienced a secure attachment, ever. That's my goal.
Mm.
It's my
I
goal.
hope you reach your goal.
Yes,
That's a great goal,
it is a
and
good goal.
it is a great goal. And I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to reframe what you just said, Tiffany.
Mhm.
My guess is that you have had secure attachments, but maybe just not with a romantic partner, right?
There, well, oh, yeah,
Like
thank
our
you.
children, for example.
100%.
I
Yes.
know
I
you
was
have
talking
a
straight
great
relationships,
relationship.
but
Yes.
thank you for
Okay.
pointing that out because I 100% absolutely agree. I love deeply. I love my friends deeply, and that's another thing I will add in is that as I've gotten older, I have my relationships with my old friends have gone to another level
Mhm.
because of my personal growth and when I was younger, and here's another transparent thing about me, I always felt like I was never anybody's first choice.
Mhm.
Didn't matter if it was my friends or dudes, never anyone's first choice. And that really bothered me when I was younger because all my friends had best friends. They were
Mhm.
all my friends, but they all had
Mhm.
best friends.
Mhm.
And it wasn't necessarily me. And those relationships deepened as time grew, and they are at a level now that I am absolutely insanely surrounded by the most
Mhm.
amazing women. And that includes you, by the way, that
Oh.
I absolutely love. Yeah, right? Yeah. But Taylor Swift. Yeah. I love that. But it's true. I love it because the growth, life experience, uh, willingness to just let it be and let go and let things develop in a beautiful, natural way and deepen in a beautiful, natural way. And not sit there and feel in my head, I don't feel that way anymore with my friends of, well, I'm not their first choice, and I always get overlooked, and because it just always felt like that, and it was because of things that had happened, and that's understandable. It wasn't me necessarily reading into it. It was just the way things were, and that's okay. I know that probably my attachment and the way I behaved and the choices I made back then were a little bit not I wouldn't say off putting, but like a red flag, like I love her, but she's a little cray cray, whatever they thought. I totally don't blame them. I don't. I love them just the same more than ever. I don't even care. I just am so grateful for the personal growth and the ability to love, as you so eloquently pointed out, that I do have secure attachments in all other aspects of my life.
That's
That is very
wonderful.
important. Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
it really is, because sometimes we just need to have that one really good attachment, whoever that might be. You also mentioned your dad, and sometimes that one good attachment can really help us, because if people have never had a healthy attachment, that's quite a challenge. That
Yeah.
creates a whole nother set. We won't even go into that, but that's quite a challenge. I do want to say I have to feel like I have to add one thing here, because we do go through life and have these experiences, as you just said. And because of the experience that you have, you've changed your attachment style, right? More to this, um, not so much the anxious attachment anymore, because you're kind of putting up that avoidant wall to protect yourself. But you also said something else that I think is really important, and that's key, is that, your friends, whatever reasons, you don't think they were doing it for necessarily a negative reason. I love one, that you're trying to be so kind to your friends right then. That was really
Yeah.
awesome, because,
Yeah.
frankly, when we're all growing up, we're all not the nicest people in the world either. So,
Right.
so
Well, and you're just banging around trying to figure out life,
that's
and you're
right.
like, nobody
We
likes me. Ah.
Right, but you said I always felt like I wasn't first in people's life. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but what I do know is that what oftentimes what we feel is not accurate. We can feel like pushed aside by somebody. And so the next time somebody comes along and responds in a way that might be similar or acts in a way, then we feel the same way. And maybe that person isn't pushing us aside. Maybe that's
Mm.
how we see it. So I just tell people that when you have negative feelings are good, because you can check in and say, why am I feeling this way?
Mm.
And then let's challenge those feelings. Let's see if that's really accurate. And we can challenge them, like, by having some conversation and finding out what's really going on, right? Instead of just making assumptions that we're not important in somebody's life, or we don't matter, because we tend to make a lot of negative assumptions based on how we feel. And it's pretty fascinating how often our feelings are wrong. And I have a favorite,
Right.
short little video that I do that's talk and on Dear Dr. Becky, that actually talks about our feelings lie to us. And that is
I'll
so
have to watch that
important
one.
to recognize that our feelings lie to us all the time. And I think women especially are taught you got to own your feelings, and men need to own their feelings more. But the fact of the matter is our feelings are not always accurate. And so we really, especially if they're negative, I always say if they're good and they're positive, go with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right, go with it. We want those
Yeah.
kind of feelings. But if we have these negative feelings, then we really need to explore it and see, is this accurate? Because I can have somebody walk in my office, for example, and say, gosh, nobody, I just feel like I've never been loved by anybody, or just make some kind of a general statement. And I'll challenge it every time. And especially if I've worked with them for a little while, I'll say, well, what about this and this and this and this, right?
Mm.
Because you may be feeling unloved right now or unwanted. It's because right now you're going through something that might be a little difficult, but it doesn't mean that that person doesn't love you. It doesn't mean that other people don't love you. It doesn't mean
Right.
that you're not unwanted. So we need to kind of step back from our feelings once in a while and just put a little pause button on it and say, wait a minute, let me challenge this. Let me look and see what's the evidence, or let me talk to something, or let me get to the root of this issue, right? Maybe we need to figure some things out. And I just think that's really important, because our feelings are not right a lot of the time.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's interesting that when we bang through life and we are on, Mach 10, high
Yes.
alert feelings and anxiety, and everything's all about emotion and this, and then we make really, really important decisions
Hmm.
during these heightened,
Hmm.
crazy moments, when if you just allow yourself to kind of come back down to baseline, reevaluate a little bit and go, okay, I'm not on Mach 10 right now. And like,
Right.
maybe I shouldn't make decisions when I'm completely whacked out,
Oh man,
because we've all done it.
those are like words of wisdom. I'm glad that you said it, because I say it all
Yeah.
the time, especially people going through things like divorce and death and just really hard, things in their life. And like, this is not the time to make a decision. And I also love that you mentioned anxiety. So if you are prone to high anxiety, especially, yes, that's why anxiety and anxious attachment is fear-based, because anxiety is fear-based, and that's
Yeah.
important to recognize. All anxiety is fear-based. And so we
Right.
have to look at where that fear is coming from and what do we do to work through that fear. And if we're making decisions based on fear,
Mm,
that's probably not going to lead us in the right way. And
no.
in a lot of those attachments that we've talked about, styles, there's fear of abandonment, for example, right? And so,
Yep.
what's that going to lead us to do? Or fear of, you know, not being loved, or fear of, being in an unhealthy relationship, or whatever, based on your experience, right, that you've had
Right.
before. There's a million different fears.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, you're right. We do not want to make decisions based on fear.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I know we've all done it at times, especially when you're younger and maybe less experienced in things, and just things feel like, oh, this is it. This is over. I'm done. And I've done it. I mean, I've done it. I lost count how many times I've packed my bags.
Mm.
Seriously. And it is out of fear. It
Mm.
is out of, I'm tired of feeling unstable, insecure, not in a stable environment, feeling like I can't trust, whatever it is. That's where that comes from for me. That is my biggest thing for me, is trust,
Mm.
which is all based in fear, obviously, to a degree. I
Right.
the what ifs, why don't you fight for me? Why don't you fight for us? And why can't, when you say you're going to do something, why can't you just do it? And you don't have to sit there and tell me you're going to do something. Just do it. It's just like, I mean, all these things is like my biggest thing, which turns back to my love language as far as what my love language is, and that's what I give. So yeah, it's all based in fear, because
Mm.
I also have the fear of missing out.
Mm.
The fear of missing out. Okay, you
FOMO.
the
FOMO.
yeah, I know.
FOMO.
I know. I do
Yeah.
have it. I do have it. The fear of missing out, not going out and partying, kind of missing out, going out and living it up. No, it's not that. It's the fear of being in something for so long, or multiple things, relationships for so many years,
Mm.
and getting to the point of going, okay, I'm not getting any younger.
Mm.
What do I have to bring to the table? I don't have a lot to offer at this point because of decisions I've made. Who's going to hire this almost 55-year-old? How am I going to blah, blah, blah? So the fear of missing out is all encompassed in all of these things, is fear of the what ifs. What if I can't? What if it won't happen? What if I waited too long? What if I'm operating to some degree in that realm
Mm.
right now because of so many life changes. And that is something I deal with every day, and I tackle every day, and I, push it down every day, and I open it up every day. I mean, I just, depending on the moment and what exactly that fear is, I'm constantly questioning myself. But at the same time, I'm grateful for that, to be able to question these things,
Mm.
try to deal with these things, answer those questions within myself, find the answers, uh, extend myself out, whatever it takes to conquer that fear. Whether it be, okay, get that job. Yeah, okay, that's tied up. Okay, we got that. Okay, what about sell your truck? Get that. Oh, yeah, okay, that's going to happen. So there's all these moving parts. So fear is definitely where I'm at with a lot of things right now because of the unknown.
Mm.
It's not necessarily about my relationship issues so much right now, because I'm avoiding, I'm on the outside and I'm somewhat avoiding it because it's not a priority to me right now. It's just, I got so many other fish to fry, so many other big things taking my time, and my focus needs to be on that. So, yeah, fear, the F word,
Gosh. You
the
know,
other four-letter F word.
oh, it is
So much
true,
to
isn't it?
unpack right there, right?
Oh,
So much to unpack.
there is a lot, and I was trying to decide where to start with it, but I just have to laugh, because my first thought is, really? We're not getting any younger, Tiffany?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh my
Really?
God. Who said that? I'm getting younger every day. I don't know about
Right,
you, right?
stop.
Yeah, the wrinkles and the saggy stuff, that's just
Just not
yeah,
happening.
yeah. I don't see it every day. Yeah, there's the fear of that too. The fear of, "Oh
Yeah,
my
right.
god."
Well, yeah, you said a lot.
I did.
But my
I
second,
and yeah, you don't have to go into all
no,
of it
I
if you
think
it was
I
just
think
me talking.
I think there's a couple good points that I really want to
Okay.
make, and one
Okay,
of them
perfect.
is recognizing that even negative emotions can have positive drivers. And I think that's really important. Oftentimes, when we have negative emotions, or maybe we're really hard on ourselves, we do that because it drives us to do better.
Mm,
And I think that's good to own it and recognize why we do that, but also see that it's self-sabotaging in many ways. So my preference to people is like, what can you do that can drive you, that's
mm,
positive, right? So somebody who is in a relationship or has a hard time finding relationships, for example, and they've just never pursued it because they're fearing abandonment, or fearing intimacy, or whatever it might be, right? They have a lot of trust and lots of things, and so they'll start talking negative, like, "Oh, that person's not for me," or "I'm not good enough for them," or "They're not going to like me," and they just
mm,
start doing all this negative talk because it helps protect them. But look
right.
how sabotaging that kind of self-talk is.
Oh, yeah.
So sabotaging. And
It
so
is.
instead I say, well, what can you say to yourself that is not going to be negative and derogatory? And so I want to do that right now with FOMO, right? Because we recognize
Yeah.
that FOMO in many ways is driving you, frankly. I see that in you,
Yeah.
Tiffany. And this isn't just you, or talking about people in general, because this is so, so common, because fear is a driver
Right.
for so many people in our society. But when we look at it, for example, we'll use you as an example because we've been talking a little bit about
Do
you.
it.
One thing to think of is just reframing, right? Instead of, it's not the end, because I think we tend to get caught up in our pressure cooker of society. Everything has to be
Mm,
done now, right? We live in this instant world. We have to have everything done now. And
yeah.
I don't think that's a healthy mindset. So we want to take a step back and not get caught up in what society says. Well, we should have all of this at this point in our life, right? No,
Yeah.
don't listen
Yeah.
to society. And we need to be doing 10 million things, and we need to be, yeah, don't listen to society. And that's not easy, because society puts so much pressure on us, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
ridiculous, because we know that taking time and slowing down is actually really, really beneficial on
Mm,
multiple levels. And so instead of thinking negative, like that example that I gave you with the person going out on a date, think of, like, right now, this is just the beginning. It's not the end, it's the beginning. To me, life takes us in so many different trajectories, and every trajectory is a new beginning. And
yeah.
that new beginning is something exciting. And you might have another new beginning, another new beginning.
Yeah.
And I think if you just think, this is a new beginning, what's going to happen here in this particular segment of my life? And I'm excited about the
Yeah.
potential. And I just think that is really, really helpful to shift, instead of saying what's missing, or what haven't I done, or how come I'm not
Right.
where I should be according to
Right.
society, right?
Society.
Yeah, society.
Mhm.
Instead, say, well, hey, what is next, right? What's
Right.
new? Where am I going to go? What do I have the potential? It's my time now. I think
Yeah.
it's just a wonderful thing. I was just thinking, that I have this little plaque on my wall, and it's a little
Oh,
plaque behind me, and it says,
yeah.
perhaps this is the moment for which you were created.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It is, because we don't know really what those moments might be, but I truly believe that those moments are sometimes the hardest moments in our life, because
Absolutely.
that's what we learn from, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
so I think that right now we can say, what is this moment going to bring me? What am I going to learn? How am I going to grow from this moment? Where is it going to take me? What am I going to make happen right now?
Mm.
Right? What am
Mhm.
I going to make
Yes.
happen? And,
Yes.
so I think those just simple little reframes can help us feel more empowered, and more of worth, I don't know if that's the right word to use. That's why I hesitated when I said that. But
Yeah, it
it
makes
can
sense
definitely,
though.
right, provide us with a greater self-esteem and greater assurance to move forward instead of feeling doubt, because just because my life hasn't been perfect and I've been through a lot of stuff, right? Where we tend to have a lot of self-doubt. And I just say,
Yeah,
get rid of that. This is your moment, because you've
yeah,
learned so much, you've grown so much, you have so much of ability to make life what you want it to be right now because of your experience. And
yes,
and I want to say something, Tiffany, because I think this
yeah,
is what you're doing on the station, and help other people on
yeah.
their life because of your own experiences.
Definitely. Yes, thank you. That's the whole concept here is I love getting feedback and people saying, "Oh my gosh, what you said was this," or what Dr. Becky said was great, or
Mm,
whatever it is. I absolutely love it because I want it to resonate with somebody and kind of get in there and make them think a little bit, maybe self-reflect, things that you bring in, be like, "Oh my god, I never thought of that." And it would be just the ultimate thank you wouldn't be, "Oh, you're so great." No, God, no. It would be what you guys talked about
mm,
impacted me because I had questions about this or I was struggling with this, whatever it is. And this is a tough age for
mm,
us women.
mm,
It really is. It's a tough age, but it brings so many great things too. So I appreciate what you said about to not let the negative be what is at the forefront. And it's definitely not for me in the fear and all that. And you probably know this by now with me. I'm more I might get in a moment and then go, oh, okay, no. And then I turn around and I course correct. That's my thing. Adapting and course correcting is my jam because I've done it probably
so
probably
many
my whole
times.
life. Yeah, that's just what I do.
And
And
that's
but at the
so
same time
healthy
with
in life. You need to be able, frankly, to survive life, you really need
yeah,
to be able. That's a great skill. Not everybody has it, but that's
no,
a great
no,
skill.
they don't. And I guess you take some of that for granted sometimes thinking, well, why do they just stay stuck and just their feet are in the freaking
Mhm.
cement in the ground? And it's like, oh no, no, no. I may get down every now and then, kind of going, oh, I wish I'd have done this a little different. Oh my God, I was and of course, because I care about my life, I care
Yeah.
about me and where I'm going. And I learn from where I've been. And so I take it all with me. It's my big bucket of this is the Tiffany bucket. This is all full of all kinds of stuff. And I love it and I take it with me everywhere I go. But I don't look at it as an anchor. I look at it as more of just, what I hold and love and go, yep, that's me right there. All that crap inside there, that's me. And I'm okay with it.
Mm.
And I feel really good about a lot of things right now. I really do about my relationships with my friends. We're doing things all the time. We're planning things for the future. The relationships I'm developing with you and I have my polka dot powerhouse sisters that I love and it's like I'm a polka dot. What the hell is that? But I love it. I love it. And I've got a lot on my plate as you saw earlier with all this crap back here. It's so awful. And but you know what? I look at it, I walk by it, and I go, "Yep, that'll be there in a couple hours." Oh, there, it's still there. Oh God, find the
Mhm.
time to tackle it. But I love where my life is going, and I. It's
Oh,
hard when
happy to hear
you. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I've been very, very emotional, and I've been. There's a lot of stuff that's obviously flowing through me at all times, and because I have a huge heart and a lot of emotion, that's just my passion. Is just like this is me.
that.
So it's hard for me to know and own and acknowledge and believe that this is where I'm at and this is going to be behind me to a degree and this is what's ahead of me. I love silver linings. My middle name should be Silver Linings. Um
Yes.
yeah, I love silver linings. Even through all the chaos and the crazy that's happened within this family over the last 3 years, I lost count of all the
Mm,
silver linings. There's things that have been lost.
mm,
Absolutely. Things have been completely shifted. That'll never be the same, including relationships. Those were, those needed to happen. Those needed to go away. And I'm okay with that because it's paving the way for so many good things in my life, in what I can bring here to my parents' life, whatever it is, things had to shift, had to get shaken up. Things had to be broken down because from there, as again, there's the ashes, the phoenix. I love the phoenix analogy, rising from the
Rising from
ashes.
the ashes.
I love it.
Yes, it is a
Absolutely. Because
beautiful.
I see that visually and a lot over the last few years. And I continue to see it all the time. I love it. And I want, as we mentioned before, if anybody can take that, what we talk about, and even if it's just my story with things I talk about,
Yeah.
I want it to make a difference. It's important to me to make a difference. And if people can really make some good, significant, positive changes because of our conversations, I am in
That's
heaven.
wonderful. Right. Right.
Yeah,
You've accomplished what you are set out to do because that is
absolutely.
exactly why you're here and doing this. It
Yes,
is to help. Well, we all know it helps us, right? Anytime
yes,
I even teach a class or seminar, I'm learning from that and I'm growing and it helps me. But I also get the privilege of helping other people on their path. And
yes,
I love that. So it's amazing. I
yes.
thank you for doing this for that reason. I have to tell you, when you were talking, I was thinking about my first thought was like, you are an amazing, resilient woman. And that is so
Thank
important
you.
to recognize because it's a struggle for a lot of people to be resilient. And because you can, I, I'll just laugh at this. It's like the human version of a bouncy ball, right? That you, you can
That's
take some,
me.
you can take
Darn,
some
darn.
hard hits and then you can bounce back and even bounce back bigger and stronger. I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
is so important. You've got so much, so much strength and emotional
Thank you.
stamina, and that's important. Even though we may have that FOMO, there's a lot of things I say that we have to recognize that complement each other too. And
Yeah,
you have a lot of stamina, and you frankly have turned things around and are really thriving. And I think that is extremely important to recognize that all the
thank you.
challenges are and working through it is proof that we can get through and
Yes.
and
Oh,
not
yeah.
just get through, but we can thrive. And I will tell you, I side note, I for a long time when I was working with clients and they're going through things, I'm like, okay, let's identify three coping mechanisms, right? And that's what I would always do, three coping. Well, I just got to a point at some point. I still think they're good. I want to throw that out there. We all need them when we're going through things to help us. But I got to the point where I stopped using that terminology. And as a matter of fact, again, I think I created a video on this one in particular because I don't like the word coping. I just
Mm.
basically stopped using that word and I eliminated it in conversations with my clients. Because to me, coping means that you're always going to be dealing with something, right? I just have to cope.
Ah,
I just have to cope. I just have to cope. I just have to get through it. I just have to get through it. And to me, that isn't very hopeful. And so my thought is, well, what can we do to change maybe you can't change the situation. Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but you can definitely change the way you think about it. You can definitely work on your emotions. Those are all things you can change. So you can change your thoughts, your behaviors, the emotions,
mhm.
and therefore you can get to a place that you can thrive and not just cope with the situation, right?
I
You
like
can
that.
thrive. And so I just really love to look at what can we change to make it better? What can we change so that you can, instead of just surviving, right,
Yeah,
that you can be thriving? Because
yeah.
surviving is okay for a while, but there's a point where like, how long do I have to keep trying to get through this, right?
Right,
let's
right.
let's let's figure out how to thrive. And that's
I
where a
like
lot of
that.
hard work is done, because that's where in a situation maybe we can't change it, we can say, how can I thrive in this situation? So what do I
Right.
personally have to do to help me to thrive?
Thank you again, guys, for joining me for another episode of The Next Chapter with Tiffany. Stay tuned for part 2 of my 2-part series with Dr. Becky.